the distress signal. The emergency alarm echoed through the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. Red lights flashed across the massive dome where representatives from 57 species gathered. At the center of the room, a holographic display showed a distant star system under attack. "The mining colony at Sector 7 is sending a distress signal," announced the council speaker, a tall being with blue skin and 4 arms. "The swarm has found them." Every representative in the chamber fell silent. The swarm was every species' nightmare. Billions of metallic creatures that moved through space like locusts, consuming everything in their path. Planets, ships, space stations. Nothing survived when the swarm arrived. Elder White, leader of the crystalline gem species, stood up. His transparent body flickered with fear. "That is our colony. 3 million of my people are there. The council must send help immediately." The speaker shook his head slowly. "Our peacekeeping fleet is 8 days away. The colony has perhaps 3 hours. Then they are already dead," said Admiral Storm from the warrior race known as the Blades. Even these fearsome fighters avoided the swarm when possible. In the corner of the chamber, a human representative named Rex remained quiet. He was smaller than most other species in the room, with no claws, scales, or natural armor. Humans were new to the council, having joined only 5 years ago. Most species considered them weak but clever, useful for trade and technology, but nothing more. Rex touched a small device on his wrist, sending a message that none of the other representatives noticed. Then he stood up. "Earth will help," Rex said simply. The chamber erupted in confused murmurs. The speaker raised his 4 arms for silence. "Ambassador Rex, Earth's colony ships are even farther away than our fleet. How can you possibly—" "Not colony ships," Rex interrupted. "Our Predator fleet can be there in 2 hours." The room went completely silent. No one had heard of any human military fleet. "According to all records, Earth only had merchant vessels and exploration ships. What is the Predator fleet?" demanded Admiral Storm, his 6 eyes narrowing with suspicion. Rex smiled slightly. "Something we hoped we'd never need to use again." Before anyone could respond, the holographic display changed. New signals appeared at the edge of the system, 12 massive ships dropping out of hyperspace. They were nothing like the smooth, white vessels the Council knew. These ships were black as space itself, with angular designs that looked like hunting knives. Their names appeared on the display: Hunter, Stalker, Reaper, Shadow, Fang, and others that made the representatives shift uncomfortably. "Impossible," whispered the speaker. "That's skip-drive technology. No one has skip-drive technology." "Humans do," Rex said calmly. "We've had it for 50 years. On the display, the black ships moved with terrifying precision. They didn't fly like normal vessels. They prowled through space like wolves surrounding prey. The largest ship, the Hunter, was 3 times bigger than anything Earth had ever shown the Council. Captain James stood on the bridge of the Hunter, watching the stars blur past the windows. He was a man in his 40s with gray hair and scars across his face. Around him, his crew worked in perfect silence. They all knew what was coming. "Distance to target?" James asked. 90 minutes, Captain," replied his navigation officer, a young woman named Kate. "The colony is still transmitting. They're alive." "Good," James said. He turned to his weapons officer. "Tom, wake up the guns." "All of them." Tom grinned, his fingers dancing across his console. "With pleasure, Captain." It's been too long. Throughout the ship, massive weapon systems came online. Weapons that Earth had hidden from the galaxy. Weapons that humans had promised themselves they would only use if innocent lives were at stake. Back in the council chamber, the representatives watched in stunned silence as the human fleet accelerated beyond what physics should allow. The ships moved like living things, like predators that had caught the scent of blood. "What are you?" the speaker asked Rex, fear creeping into his voice. Rex's expression was serious now. "We're the species that survived on a death world, speaker. We're the ones who made friends with wolves and turned them into dogs. We conquered our planet, then conquered our own nature." He paused. "We're humanity, and we protect those who can't protect themselves." The holographic display showed the Predator fleet closing in on the colony. The swarm was almost there too. The hunt was about to begin. First contact with fear. The mining colony floated in the darkness like a giant crystal flower. Its transparent domes and towers caught the light from the nearby star, creating rainbow patterns across its surface. Inside, 3 million gems moved in panic, their crystalline bodies flashing different colors of distress. Elder Blue stood in the command center, watching the sensors with growing terror. The swarm was coming, a black cloud of death that would reach them in less than an hour. But something else had appeared on their screens first. "Elder, unknown ships approaching at impossible speed," reported a young gem officer, his body flickering orange with fear. They're not council vessels." Elder Blue examined the readings. 12 ships, moving in perfect formation. Their design was unlike anything in the council database. Sharp angles, dark hulls, and energy signatures that made no sense. The computer couldn't even identify what type of weapons they carried. "Try to contact them," Elder Blue ordered, though his voice shook. The main screen flickered to life. A human face appeared, a woman with short black hair and cold, calculating eyes. She wore a dark uniform with no decorations except for a small pin showing Earth. "This is Commander Kate of the Earthship Stalker. We're here to help. Please send us your defensive capabilities and structural weak points." Elder Blue's body turned pale yellow with confusion. Our weak points? Why would you need... "So we don't accidentally destroy your colony while we're killing the swarm," Kate said matter-of-factly. "You have 45 minutes before contact. I suggest you move all civilians to the center sections." The transmission ended before Elder Blue could respond. On the sensors, the human ships began to spread out around the colony. They moved like a pack of predators, each ship knowing exactly where to position itself without any visible communication. "Elder," whispered another officer, "look at their ship names." Elder Blue read them on the display. Hunter, Stalker, Reaper, Shadow, Fang. Predator, Nightmare, Ghost, Venom, Razor, Killer, Deathstrike. Each name was more frightening than the last. "What kind of people name their ships like this?" the officer asked. Before Elder Blue could answer, the human ships began to change. Panels opened along their hulls, revealing weapons arrays that seemed to go on forever. The Hunter alone deployed more gun ports than the entire Council peacekeeping fleet combined. In the Council chamber, representatives watched the sensor feed in stunned silence. The peaceful humans they thought they knew were showing a completely different face. "Those are mass drivers," Admiral Storm identified, his voice hushed. "And those are antimatter cannons. That's technology we banned 300 years ago as too dangerous." "The humans signed our peace treaties," the speaker said weakly. "They agreed to the weapons restrictions." Rex shook his head. "We agreed not to use them in Council space during peacetime. This is neither Council space nor peacetime. The swarm changed the rules when they attacked." On the screen, smaller ships launched from the larger vessels, fighters that moved so fast the sensors could barely track them. They numbered in the hundreds, swarming out like angry wasps from their nests. Captain James stood on the Hunter's bridge, studying the tactical display. The swarm was now visible, a writhing mass of metallic creatures that blocked out the stars. There were millions of them, maybe billions. "All ships, this is Hunter Actual," James spoke into the fleet communication system. "Remember your training. These things took 3 colonies last month. No mercy, no hesitation. We stopped them here." "Copy that, Hunter," came responses from the other ship captains. James turned to his crew. "Lisa, bring the main guns online." "All of them." Lieutenant Lisa, the ship's weapons officer, smiled grimly. "Already done, Captain. We have full charge on all systems." Outside, the fighter pilots prepared for contact. Squadron leader Tom checked his weapons one last time. His fighter, like all human combat craft, was built for one thing: killing efficiently. "Alpha Squadron, form up on me," Tom commanded. "Remember, these things adapt quickly. Don't use the same attack pattern twice." "Copy that, Alpha Leader," his pilots responded in unison. Back on the mining colony, the gems watched in growing amazement and fear. The humans weren't taking defensive positions around the colony as expected. Instead, they were forming attack formations, pointing toward the incoming swarm. "They're not going to wait," Elder Blue realized. "They're going to attack first." A young gem officer turned purple with shock. But that's suicide! No one attacks the swarm directly. Elder Blue watched the human ships accelerate toward the enemy. I don't think these humans know that. The swarm was close enough now to see individual creatures, each one the size of a small ship, with metal teeth that could tear through hull plating like paper. They moved as one massive organism, hungry and unstoppable, or so everyone had always believed. The human fleet continued to accelerate, not slowing down even as they approached the wall of death. On every council world, representatives watched in disbelief. The humans they had welcomed as peaceful traders were showing their true nature. By the stars, the speaker whispered. They're not defending. They're hunting. In space, the first human fighters reached the swarm's outer edge. Tom's voice came through the communications, calm and steady. Contact in 5 seconds. Let's remind these bugs why Earth's animals learned to fear the dark. The battle was about to begin, and the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The hunt begins. The first wave of human fighters hit the swarm like bullets through paper. They didn't slow down, didn't hesitate. They punched straight through the outer layer of creatures, their ships spinning and firing in all directions. Tom's fighter twisted through space, avoiding the snapping jaws of a swarm creature by mere inches. His guns never stopped firing. Alpha Squadron, execute Pattern Wolf. Drive them toward the kill zone. The fighters moved in perfect coordination, working like sheepdogs herding sheep. They fired at specific angles, forcing groups of swarm creatures to move away from the colony and toward empty space where the larger ships waited. Captain James watched from the hunter's bridge. They're in position. Lisa, fire the gravity net. Lisa's fingers flew across her console. Gravity net deployed. From the hunter's belly, a strange weapon fired. Not a beam or projectile, but a distortion in space itself. Suddenly, thousands of swarm creatures were pulled together, crushed into a ball by artificial gravity. They struggled and screeched, but couldn't escape. Now hit them with the antimatter, James ordered. A single missile launched from the hunter. When it hit the compressed mass of creatures, the explosion was visible from the colony. A miniature sun bloomed in space, vaporizing everything within 1,000 kilometers. In the council chamber, representatives stood in shock. The speaker's forearms trembled. They just killed more swarm in one attack than we've managed in 50 years. But the humans weren't done. The Reaper and Shadow moved to flank the main swarm mass, deploying weapons no one had seen before. Plasma storms, controlled fields of superheated gas that melted through the creatures' metal bodies. The Stalker launched mines that didn't explode. Instead, they generated tiny black holes that sucked in dozens of creatures before collapsing. Commander Kate's voice came through the fleet communications. Section 3 is breaking formation. Nightmare and Ghost, close that gap. The two ships moved instantly, their crews not questioning or hesitating. They flew directly into the mass of creatures, all weapons firing. The Nightmare spun on its axis, creating a sphere of death around itself. Nothing survived within 500 meters of its hull. On the mining colony, Elder Blue and his officers watched in stunned silence. The humans fought like nothing they had ever seen. Not with the honor-bound rules of the Blades or the defensive strategies of the Council. They fought like predators, efficient, brutal, and without mercy. Elder, look at their formations, an officer pointed out. It's like watching pack hunters. Elder Blue saw it too. The human ships worked in groups of 3 or 4, one ship driving prey toward the others. When swarm creatures tried to escape, fighters would force them back. It was coordinated, planned, and terrifying. Tom's fighter squadron had penetrated deep into the swarm mass. His cockpit alarms screamed warnings as creatures closed in from all sides. Alpha Leader, you're too deep. Pull back, came a voice from the hunter. Negative, Hunter. I see their coordination node, Tom replied. The swarm had creatures that acted like commanders, controlling thousands of smaller ones. If I can take it out, a creature's claw ripped through his fighter's wing. Tom's ship spun wildly, but he kept firing. His remaining missiles locked onto the large brain-like creature at the swarm's center. Fox 2! Fox 2! Tom shouted, launching everything he had. The missiles hit their target. The coordination node exploded, and suddenly thousands of swarm creatures stopped moving in unison. They became confused, attacking each other in their frenzy. "Good hit, Alpha Leader," Captain James called out. "All ships press the advantage. Full attack!" The entire human fleet surged forward. The Hunter fired its main gun, a rail cannon that launched projectiles at near light speed. Each shot punched through dozens of creatures, leaving trails of destruction. The Predator released swarms of its own, tiny drones that attached to swarm creatures and exploded. But the humans' most frightening weapon was their willingness to get close. The Fang actually rammed smaller creatures, its reinforced hull crushing them like insects. When a group of swarm creatures surrounded the Venom, the ship didn't retreat. It detonated its outer hull panels, creating a sphere of shrapnel that shredded everything nearby, then continued fighting with its backup armor. Engineer Lisa on the Hunter reported, "Captain, we're down to 60% ammunition." "Then we make every shot count," James replied. "Deploy the burner rounds." The Hunter's next volley contained special ammunition, shells that burned with chemical fire even in the vacuum of space. They stuck to swarm creatures and ate through their metal bodies like acid. The creatures tried to scrape them off, but the fire spread to anything they touched. Back in the council chamber, Admiral Storm spoke quietly. "They're not just winning. They're teaching the swarm fear." It was true. For the first time in recorded history, the swarm was pulling back. Not retreating, but hesitating. The creatures at the edge of the mass moved away from the human ships, unwilling to enter their kill zones. Rex watched the display without emotion. "This is what we are, Admiral. We spent thousands of years as both predator and prey on our world. We learned from both experiences. But the violence," the speaker said weakly, "is controlled." Rex finished. "Watch closely. Every shot is calculated. Every movement has purpose. This isn't rage. It's hunting strategy refined over millennia." In space, the battle continued. The humans had destroyed nearly a quarter of the swarm, but the creatures were adapting. They began to attack in larger groups, trying to overwhelm individual ships. Captain James saw the change immediately. "They're learning. All ships switch to Pattern Hawk. Don't let them predict us." The human fleet changed tactics instantly, shifting from pack hunting to hit-and-run attacks. They moved like birds of prey, diving in, striking, then pulling away before the swarm could respond. But the swarm had one more surprise. The remaining creatures began to merge, forming larger, more dangerous entities. 3 creatures became 1, then 10, then 100. Soon, mega creatures the size of the human ships themselves were forming. "Well," Tom said, his damaged fighter limping back toward the Hunter, "this just got interesting." Captain James smiled grimly. "All ships, prepare for Phase 2. Let's show them why humans are the apex predators of Earth." The real fight was just beginning. The turning point. The mega creatures attacked with fury the galaxy had never seen. One of them, made from hundreds of smaller swarm, wrapped itself around the Razor like a metal snake. The ship's hull screamed under the pressure. "Razor is in trouble!" someone shouted on the Hunter's bridge. Captain James watched as the Razor fired all its weapons point blank, but the mega creature only squeezed tighter. Then he heard Captain Roberts' voice from the Razor. "All hands, prepare for core overload." "It's been an honor." "Robert, no!" James called out, but the Razor was already glowing. Its reactor went critical, and the explosion tore the mega creature in half. The Razor was gone, taking 1,000 swarm creatures with it. "First ship down," Lisa reported quietly. "Should we pull back?" James's face hardened. "No, we knew this might happen. The colony has 2 million lives counting on us." Another mega creature, this one with wings made from melted swarm bodies, struck the Hunter from above. The impact threw everyone to the floor. Alarms screamed as hull breaches appeared on 3 decks. "We've lost engines 2 and 3, Engineer Mark shouted. "We're venting atmosphere." The mega creature prepared to strike again, its 1,000 mouths opening to reveal spinning metal teeth. James stood up, blood running from a cut on his forehead. "How many people are on that mining colony?" James asked. 3 million, sir," Lisa answered. James nodded. "Then 3 million it is. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for ramming speed. The bridge went silent. Then Lisa spoke. Captain, if we ram that thing, we won't survive. I know, James said simply. But the colony will. All power to engines. We're going through it. The Hunter's remaining engines roared to life. The massive ship accelerated toward the mega creature. Other ships saw what was happening. On the Stalker, Commander Kate's eyes widened. The Hunter is going for a ram. All ships cover them. Every human vessel turned their guns toward the mega creature attacking the Hunter. They fired everything they had, trying to weaken it before impact. But the creature was too big, too strong. Tom's damaged fighter watched from the edge of the battle. He had 3 missiles left, but his targeting system was destroyed. He would have to fly them in manually. This is probably stupid, Tom muttered, then pushed his throttle forward. His fighter dove toward the mega creature's center mass. Swarm creatures tried to stop him, but other fighters cleared his path. Tom flew straight into the creature's mouth. Tom, what are you doing? Kate's voice crackled over communications. Giving the Hunter a chance, Tom replied, then detonated his missiles inside the creature. The explosion ripped the mega creature open from the inside. The Hunter burst through the weakened section, covered in metal fragments and fire but still flying. Tom's fighter was gone. Elder Blue watched from the colony, his crystalline body pale with shock. They're dying for us. Humans they've never met, dying to save us. The battle had turned into something desperate. The Ghost had lost all weapons and was ramming smaller creatures with its hull. The Venom was on fire but still fighting. The Predator had split in half, but both sections continued to fire their guns. Engineer Lisa worked frantically at her station. Captain, I can overload our main gun. It'll destroy the barrel, but the blast would take out that large cluster. Do it, James ordered without hesitation. The Hunter's main gun charged beyond safe levels. The barrel glowed white-hot. When it fired, the beam was so bright it looked like a star being born. The gun exploded, taking the Hunter's entire front weapon array with it, but the beam carved through 10,000 swarm creatures. In the council chamber, representatives stood in silence. They were watching something they couldn't understand, a species willing to destroy themselves to save others. Why? The speaker asked Rex. Why sacrifice so much for a colony that isn't even human? Rex's answer was simple. Because we can. Because we choose to. That's what makes us human. The swarm seemed to sense the humans' determination. For the first time in their recorded history, they began to pull back. Not a retreat, but a recognition that the cost of this meal was too high. But they weren't leaving without one last attack. All remaining mega creatures converged on the colony itself. If they couldn't beat the humans, they would at least take the prize. Captain James saw it immediately. All ships, defensive formation around the colony. Don't let them through. The battered human fleet moved to block the swarm's path. The Stalker took position directly in front of the colony's main dome. Kate's voice was calm. If they want the colony, they go through us first. The Nightmare, despite having lost half its crew, positioned itself alongside. Then the Fang, the Shadow, and every other ship that could still move. They formed a wall of metal and determination between the swarm and the colony. All ships, James announced. Prepare for close combat. We hold this line. The swarm hit them like a tsunami of metal and teeth. The Nightmare disappeared under a wave of creatures. The Fang's engines exploded, but the ship kept firing even as it drifted. The humans fought with everything they had, guns, missiles, and when those ran out, they used their ships themselves as weapons. Lisa looked at her console. Captain, we're out of ammunition. James stood up from his command chair. Then we are the ammunition. All remaining power to engines. Let's finish this. The Hunter, the pride of Earth's fleet, accelerated toward the largest remaining mega creature. Other ships followed. The Stalker, the Ghost, every human vessel that could still move. They weren't fighting anymore. They were choosing how to die. But something unexpected happened. The colony's own defense systems, silent until now, suddenly came alive. Elder Blue had made a decision. If the humans can sacrifice everything, Elder Blue announced to his people, then we can at least fight beside them. The colony's mining lasers, never designed for combat, turned toward the swarm. They weren't powerful weapons, but they added their light to the humans' desperate defense. And in that moment, something changed. The swarm, faced with prey that wouldn't run and predators that wouldn't stop, made a calculation that their hunger wasn't worth this cost. They began to retreat, not slowly but all at once, like a tide pulling back from shore. The mega creatures dissolved back into smaller forms, and the entire swarm mass moved away from the colony, away from the human ships, away from this sector of space entirely. On the Hunter's broken bridge, Captain James collapsed into his chair. They had won, but at a terrible cost. 4 ships destroyed, hundreds of crew dead, and every remaining vessel damaged beyond quick repair. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "we did it." "The colony is safe," James nodded, looking at the tactical display showing their losses. "Send a message to Earth. Tell them the Predator fleet needs cubs. We're going to need replacements." The battle was over. Humanity had shown the galaxy what they truly were, and the swarm had learned what every predator on Earth had known for millennia. Humans were the most dangerous hunters of all. New understanding. The battlefield was quiet now. Where millions of swarm creatures had blocked out the stars, only debris remained. Pieces of destroyed ships, both human and swarm, drifted through space like a metal graveyard. Captain James stood on what was left of the Hunter's bridge, looking through a cracked window at the damage. Half his fleet was gone. The ships that survived looked like they had been chewed up and spat out. "Medical ships from Earth are 2 days away," Lisa reported, her uniform torn and bloodied. "The colony is offering to help with repairs." James nodded. "Tell them we appreciate it." "And Lisa, start collecting our dead. They're going home." On the mining colony, Elder Blue organized rescue teams. Thousands of gems volunteered to help search the damaged human ships for survivors. They found Engineer Mark treating wounded crew members in a half-destroyed medical bay, using torn pieces of his own uniform as bandages. "You need medical attention yourself," Elder Blue said. Noticing Mark's broken arm, Mark shook his head. "Others first. I can wait." Elder Blue's body shifted to a soft green color. Respect in gem culture. "Why did you do this?" "We are strangers to you." Mark smiled through his pain. "On Earth, we have a saying, today you, tomorrow me. Someone needs help, you help them. Simple as that." The colony's medical teams worked alongside the human survivors. They were amazed to find humans sharing their last oxygen tanks, carrying wounded even with their own injuries, and joking to keep spirits up despite everything they had lost. In the council chamber, the representatives remained silent as they watched the feed. The human ships were gathering their dead with ceremony, each body wrapped in Earth's flag. The surviving crews stood at attention despite their exhaustion. Admiral Storm spoke first. "I have fought in many battles. I have never seen warriors like these." "They're not just warriors," the speaker corrected. "Look at them now." On the screen, human soldiers were helping repair the colony's damaged outer hull. They played with gem children who approached them curiously. One pilot was teaching young gems how to fold paper into small birds, an ancient Earth art called origami. Rex finally stood to address the council. "You want to understand humans? Then understand this. We are contradiction. We are the species that split the atom and wrote poetry about flowers. We created weapons that could destroy worlds and medicine that could save them." He paused, looking at each representative. "We are predators, yes. Our ancestors hunted with persistence, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. But we also learned mercy. We learned to protect the weak, to sacrifice for strangers, to choose peace when we could choose war." Commander Kate's ship, the Stalker, had landed on the colony for emergency repairs. She met with Elder Blue in the colony's central dome, where millions of gems had gathered. "Commander," Elder Blue began, "I must ask, your fleet, these weapons, why did you hide them from us?" Kate looked tired, but her eyes were sharp. "Because we were afraid. Not of you, but of ourselves. Humans have a dark history, Elder. We've used our predator nature against each other too many times. We came to the stars hoping to leave that part behind. But you didn't leave it behind," Elder Blue observed. "You controlled it." "We channeled it," Kate corrected. "We decided that if we must be predators, we would be protectors." Shepherds with teeth, as we say on Earth? A young gem approached them, its body flickering purple with curiosity. Are all humans like you? Fighters? Kate knelt down to the child's level. No, little one. Most humans are teachers, doctors, artists, farmers. The fighters. We exist so they don't have to be. Captain James received a transmission from Earth. The President herself appeared on the screen, her face grave but proud. Captain, the entire planet has been watching. You've shown the galaxy who we really are. I'm sorry, Madam President, James said. We tried to keep our military capabilities secret as the Council requested. The President shook her head. Don't apologize, Captain. It was time. The galaxy needs to know that humanity will stand against the darkness. How many did we lose? 432 souls, Madam President. 4 ships destroyed. The rest will need months of repairs. They'll be remembered, she said softly. Every one of them. Back in the council chamber, a historic vote was taking place. The speaker raised all 4 arms. The motion before us is to grant Earth a permanent seat on the Security Council with full military authority to respond to threats against any member species. All in favor? Every hand, claw, tentacle, and appendage in the chamber rose. It was unanimous.